The first session was very wonderful and very didactic session, and now the second session. This is starting. The second session is by Dr. Vinod Kumar Yadav. Vinod Kumar Yadav is head of the Department of Humanities. He has 20 years experience, and the first session was the soft skill webinar on soft skill, and the second session is the topic is interpersonal skills. Sir, sir, please.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Omnath ji, I think I am audible to everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll be taking your interpersonal skills and how to develop those interpersonal skills. What are the different contents in your interpersonal skills? So I'm just taking 1 minute to share my slide, and meanwhile, wait for 1 2 minutes, please. I hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us start this particular session on importance of interpersonal skills. What exactly I mean to give you in this particular session is just to understand the importance of interpersonal skills and group skills. Especially my focus would be on interpersonal skills only, because when we talk about the soft skills, you have one-to-one interaction and you need to understand that one-to-one interaction and the various modalities of one-to-one interaction and how to improve this one-to-one interaction. So the very first thing that I must give you, that is what would be the contents of my today's session. We will be discussing on the importance of interpersonal communication. Then we will discuss about key interpersonal skills. Under this particular heading, we will discuss about the active listening, what exactly active listening is and how to develop active listening. Then we will discuss about the feedback skill, delegation skill, conflict management skills while interacting with someone, negotiation skills, and then we will discuss about the motivational skills during your communication process. So my important point is that most of the things which are part of your interpersonal skills, that we will try to address in this particular session. So when we talk about the interpersonal skills, let us cover up the interpersonal and group skills. Say for example, when you talk about yourself, intrapersonal, within a personality, within a human being, you talk about that your intrapersonal skill. Sometimes you know that and you say that I'm not doing good uh, for me itself. So this is your behavior towards yourself. So you can understand intrapersonal means individual behavior when you are only in a single set. Interpersonal is basically one-to-one mapping. When one person is interacting with other person, then the modalities, the transactions, the reply, the responses, all those are covered in interpersonal skills. And when more than two people are there in conversation, you can understand that there is a group communication and you need to have group skills. And maybe that sometime a person who is having interpersonal skills may not have a very strong group skills. Someone is very good in communicating with one person, single person, but not to group. And someone is very good in group, but not good in interpersonal. An example which may be taken as that some of the politicians who are very good in addressing a public gathering. So group skill is there, but when it talks about the one-to-one skill, say for example, the same person is supposed to give interview to someone, one-to-one, interpersonal, then the person is not able to make impression which he otherwise make in public speech. So interpersonal skill is different than your group skills. Sometimes you develop your group skills. Sometimes you need to develop your interpersonal skills also. So when we talk about the interpersonal skills, actually, if you talk about that, most of the management students who have gone through with the behavioral sciences, they can understand that Mintzberg have given 10 core skills. Those core skills can be categorized and clubbed into three broad categories: interpersonal skills, informational skills, and decisional skills. So you can understand a role of manager. When you talk about the role of manager, Mintzberg has very specifically defined this role of manager as a interpersonal role, as a informational role, and as a decisional role. So when we talk about a role of manager in interpersonal category, then there comes about three skills: figurehead role. The manager is basically in the role of figurehead. Figurehead role simply means that everybody is looking at you. You are the source of every decision, every inspiration, and you are head of that whole activity. So you are supposed to, you are given authority, you are responsible for that. So you have to play the role of figurehead. So in this figurehead role, sometimes you have to behave in an interpersonal way. Sometimes you have to behave in a group role. So you have to be very strong in figurehead role. Second role, which is defined as leader role. Leader basically means that there may be some follower, or you develop a team which you lead for a particular project or particular assignment or particular activity. So being a leader, you have to be very careful. You have to develop a skill. You have to understand people. You have to convince people. You have to monitor their performance in such a way that they are not taking your leadership into different basket. So you have to be very particular in showing this skill, interpersonal skill in leader role. When you talk about the listening, manager is also supposed to be a good listener. You have to maintain the communicate with the external world as well as internal world. You have to be very careful in developing the network effectively on the behalf of organization or within organization. So your listening role is very crucial. So interpersonal role, when we talk about, apart from this interpersonal role, informational role is also very important. You have to monitor someone. You have to disseminate the knowledge. You have to be a spokesperson. So when you have informational role, manager is in informational role. And in case of decisional role, you can be entrepreneur, you can be a resource allocator, you can be a good negotiator. So there are informational and decision roles also as per Mintzberg classification. When we talk about this, a good communication skill, or you must have soft skills. The basic thing is that in your communication, that if you are a good listener, as I was going through in the previous session, that speaker focused on the active listening and discussed few important points on active listening. My role in including this particular active listening in this session is to make you understand that communication to me is listen to speak and speak to listen. So when you say that listen to speak, it means listen to speak means you must get with whom you are talking. So listen them. Now listening in itself is a wide arena where you need to understand that what different factors affecting this listening, making you active listening or making you passive listener. When we talk about this listen, give feedback, speak, because while speaking you need to get feedback continuously from your audience. So it is not that your audience is supposed to listen actively. Rather than as a speaker, you are also supposed to listen actively to your audience so that instant correction in your speech or in your lecture or in your talk can be managed or can be done then and there. So active listening is very important. For active listening, you must understand that the intensity of that communication. What is the level of intensity? Empathy is equally important. It is not that if you are not having this factor into your consideration, you are not empathize, it will not be possible to be an active listener. And become active listener, it is very important to accept the speaker. If you are not accepting the speaker, you cannot be an active listener in any way. It is very difficult. So if you are not mentally prepared for active listening, if you are prepared for active listening, it means first accept the topic, the title, the speaker, the environment. Once you have accepted those things, it will become easy to become active listener. Many times you are forced to sit in a lecture where you don't like that teacher or you don't like the style of teaching, you don't like the contents, or may not be class, but may not be, sometimes you go to your relatives and your parent says that beta, uh, listen what other is saying. You may not accept the person, but you are bound to listen. So you are not active listener, rather you are passive listener. So it becomes very important to understand that the point of essentials to become active listening is also an acceptance, willing to take responsibility for completeness. Completeness means when the speaker is speaking and listener is listening, it completes the cycle. Speaking, listening. Now, as a listener, you complete the cycle. So, it is your responsibility to complete this communication cycle. Because if everybody would start speaking and no one is listening, so the cycle of communication will not, the objective of communication to communicate message would not complete. The cycle can complete only when the active listening is there in the whole communication process. How to develop this active listening skills? You can, these points may be very common to you, but I can emphasize that these points would definitely make you passive listener if not properly taken or understood. Eye contact is very common in your active listening because active listening you are active listener, other person must understand that you are listening. And your eye contact, your eye movement, your one-to-one eye matching, that becomes a feedback channel. Speaker get connected with you through your eyes, and the continuous signals are being transmitted from listener to speaker. And if you are not making eye contact, signal break is there. And you can understand that when signal break is there, you cannot operate in satellite, communication channel system. So signals are not in your communication also. You must continuously, you must be connected. So your connection through eyes is very important with the speaker. Exhibit affirmative nods and appropriate facial expression. So apart from eye contact, your facial expressions also give indications or signals to speaker. Sometimes you simply, move your head either upward and downward or left and right. So everything, and even facial expressions. When you scratch your nose during this interaction or this, it gives some signal, some message to the speaker, to the other person, that your listening level and your involvement. When you are active listener, you must be involved into that system. As a listener, you must ask questions, because eye contact and facial expression are considered to be a cosmetic, appearance and signals which you can give, or pseudo signals which you can give to speaker. But when you ask question, that gives the actual signal that you are understanding points, and after processing those points, your queries, your mind asks questions, and you are forwarding those questions to speaker. So asking question is equally important. Avoid distracting actions or gestures. I believe that this everybody can understand, that when you are making gestures which are not conducive to the communication system, then this will disturb your listening process. Avoid interrupting speaker in between. In between means, when speaker is saying something, wait for speaker to complete sentence and then ask question. It is not that in between you ask questions. This is a simple etiquettes. Do not over talk. That means maybe that if one point can be explained in one sentence, so don't use more than one sentence. This is very important. Otherwise, it will give a different message that you are not serious about. You may be active listener, but you may not be the serious listener. Now, after this listening, you must have the feedback skills. You must give feedback. Feedback to the speaker, feedback to the communication channel, feedback to the organization, feedback to the environment, and the all connected people or connected systems. It is very essential for feedback that it must be accurate. When you give feedback, it must have accuracy, it must have honesty. The timely feedback is very important. If your feedback is after the something happens wrong, then it is not feedback. Feedback is something which must reach to the concerned person or system at right time. Say for example, today you want about feedback about a person. Feedback about the person means maybe sometime about the personality, about the character, about the. Now, if someone gives you the character of a person, when the person do something wrong. So it is not right time feedback. Timely feedback is equally important. Feedback acceptance or rejection. See, this thing is very important. You must understand that you give feedback in such a way that your feedback is accepted. Sometimes your feedback channels give some contradictory signals. So whenever there are contradictions amongst the different signals, so the degree of acceptance of that feedback is reduced. It may be because of that you are considered as credible source or not. If you are credible source, because whenever you get some information, you try to get confirmed from some credible or reliable source. So credibility of the source of through which the feedback is coming, that is also equally important. How to develop that feedback skill? When we talk about that developing feedback skill, see, one point is very clear, that focus on specific behavior. Now, this is a wide concept, that wide thing that I am just talking about. Now, focus on specific behavior means when you are developing feedback, say for example, if you are on a particular job or a particular role, or you are being assigned a particular activity, so you must understand that what that activity demands, what kind of behavior that activity demands. Say for example, in some cases, activity may demand that you must be very strategic into nature. You must be aggressive into your behavior. You must be very cool, very calm into your response. So focus on specific behavior when you are developing feedbacks. Keep feedback impersonal. Impersonal means feedback is coming for a particular activity or a system or for organization or for a particular purpose. Do not mix the personal understanding with feedback you get. Sometimes it becomes, it becomes very common that someone says that Mr. X is not good person, but the corporate or the customer feedback comes that Mr. X is good salesman. So Mr. X may be a good salesman, but on other side, Mr. X may not be a good person on the personal front for someone. Now, with reference to someone, it is very important. I am not good. I am not good person for everyone in this world. So, individual understanding or individual personality or individuals should not be mixed with the system. Feedback is basically a system activity. So feedback should not be keep feedback impersonal, not individual or personal. Keep feedback goal oriented. As we discussed that you take feedback or you get feedback for a particular purpose or objective. So if it is objective oriented, so you must keep your feedback only concerned with the objective. If you are targeting more than one objective while similar feedback or same feedback, it will be very difficult. Things will be in a mess. Ensure understanding of the feedback, proper understanding, pro and cons, pre-activity and post-activity, pre-effects and post-effects. So you must understand that how to go with this feedback system ahead, or how to move with this feedback system. You must understand the overall. Look at it, is not that you get one signal and one point and one feedback and you process it, and again another signal comes at later stage and you process it separately. It is not that. when you are into a objective oriented or goal oriented system, you must understand the feedback in a very crucial way. And that is why your understanding about the feedback sources, feedback credibility, feedback with respect to a specific behavior, a specific job or a specific project or assignment, this understanding is very important, and it has to be inclusive in itself. In your interpersonal skill, you must learn to delegate things. You can be responsible for everything, but it may not be that everything is performed by you itself. Some activities will be done by you, some activities you will get done by others. So when you will get things done by others, so you must learn very uh, you know very carefully that which activities to be done by you and which are the activities to be done by others, or you are getting done from others people. And when you are getting things done from others, means you are delegating job or activities. So delegation skill, you must understand when you are delegating things to someone, whether the someone is capable of handling that thing in your way or in your expected way or not. So the capability of other person is very important while delegating. To whom to delegate? This thing is very carefully performed. This must be very carefully performed. So if you have some people who may not be very capable, very much capable, or enable or compatible with the system, you should not delegate things. And it simply depends that risk associated with the delegation process in terms of the responsibility, accountability. You must keep things, or you must delegate those things which are having the least risk associated with them. Delegate them, but before delegating, you must understand that other person must be capable of handling those things. Once you delegate, monitoring of those delegated activities is very important. You need to develop those things, how to monitor. So it is administratively and it is behaviorally equally important for them. So you have to have this monitoring system very strong while uh, delegating or getting things done from people or other people. When you delegate, you must understand the responsibility versus accountability. You know that responsibility can never be delegated. It is very simple phenomenon. You can delegate job, you can delegate work, you can distribute, but responsibility is ultimately yours. Accountability, accountability may be of that delegated person, but final responsibility is with you. Faith, obviously you will delegate those things, activities or jobs to those people who are faithful to you, or who are reliable, with whom you can trust. If you don't have trust, then it will be very risky to delegate things. How to delegate that activities, delegation of activities, or developing those delegation skills? You must clarify the assignment. When you are clarifying the assignment, you must make them understand that what are the assignment delegation objectives, why you are delegating to them, what you expect from them, within how much time you expect that work to be performed. Clarify assignment, what activities are to be conducted or completed in that assignment. So you need to clarify everything. You need to specify the range of discretion. What is this? This is basically, you have to be very careful that yes, up to this limit you can use your discretion, and beyond this limit you have to talk to me. So range of discretion must be specified while delegating it. Say for example, at a head of department, if I have to delegate some job to someone, so I will simply say that uh, you can do this thing in my absence. You can do this thing. You can take this decision. You can decide accordingly. But I will fix the range, that if it is one lecture matter or one decision matter, you can take it. But if it involves any financial things, so I will simply put a limit, that yes, in case of financial issues, do not decide. So you do not delegate those things. So you specify the range of discretion, to what extent the delegated person can use his or her own discretion. Allow subordinates to participate in the delegation process. Means when you are delegating, or when you are doing things, or when you were doing things, try to involve subordinates so that the activities can be delegated to subordinates very easily. This thing is very important. And many a times, many people have also talked about that participation in management. When you are managing something, you must make every person, every person's participation, sometimes it is contribution, every person's contribution to manage things. But professionally, corporate world believes that you must allow all subordinates with whom you can do your work, or if required you can delegate things, you can ask them to perform independently. So they must participate into activities, into system. Establish feedback channels. Try to understand this. Establish feedback channels, not channel. That means your feedback channel must not be single one. You must believe on different feedback channels, so that once the activity which you have delegated to someone, whether the person is doing that activity in a proper manner or not, whether the particular activity is progressing systematically as per the plan way or not, whether the person needs any additional support, any additional input. So you must believe, you must have the different feedback channels about the delegated assignment, so that if your channel fails, some other channels starts, contributing or giving the feedback channel, so that you can take corrective actions whenever and wherever it is required. So multi-feedback channels should be established. You should not have one channel to rely on, because if you will be having one channel to rely on, it will be very difficult to, manage things, because maybe that one channel is not capable or not empowered enough to provide you feedback system, especially in delegated powers. Generally, in government setup or in the bureaucratic approach, the feedback channel is same which is delegation channel. If you give your delegate your authority, delegate your work to your subordinate, then you ask your subordinate to give how is it going on, what is progress, how people are doing well or not, how much time it will take to complete. Now you ask these questions to your delegated person, and that delegated person is having a self interest of improving his or her own performance, or maybe that you do not get the points or the errors or the divergence at the right time. You get that divergence at a very later stage, on which the correction could not be done, or correction is not possible, or something has already happened. So you must have that multiple channel system for feedback. Now, when you are listening, when you are delegating things, conflict is obvious. So difference of opinion is compulsory. If you don't have difference of opinion, there is no life. But conflict is obvious. When there will be a difference of opinion, there would be conflict. Essentials of conflict management is that you must understand to unlearn things. Conflict management skill. Say, for example, 1 year back you had a fight with someone. You become you join any responsible position. Now you have to take work from the same person. So if you are keeping that, you are not unlearning 1 year before perception or 1 year before activity or the experience, then it will be very difficult. Every time there will be a conflict, and in that conflict, sometime your heart will win, sometime your mind will win. I tell you, in case of conflict, human conflict, there is a very big role of heart and mind, and there is a debate, and you can say that fight between heart and brain. Some experts says that live your life heartful life, some says that mindful life, peaceful mind, peaceful life. Now peaceful life means mind is peaceful, heartfulness is another thing, and the objective of both is peace. But the mode, the route, the channel, the process is different, and they conflict. Sometimes your heart says to do something, but your mind says not to do something. There is a conflict, and in that case, you must learn to unlearn. How developing conflict skill simply means you must learn to unlearn. If you have learned to unlearn, then it will be easy to understand. You can reduce your blood pressure a little bit, tension a little bit down, because you have learned to unlearn, and this is very crucial point. Realization of problem. That means simply you must go to the root of the problem, because there will be conflict, and conflict is obvious. You are passing through a crossing, some accident happens. You says that uh, Mr. X is responsible for that accident. Your friend says that no, Mr. Y is responsible for this accident. Now accident is same. Signals are received by you and your friend, they are same. But there is a conflict in outcome. You says X is culprit and your friend says Y is culprit. So there is a conflict. You must understand the root cause. Root cause means maybe you have seen something which your friend has not seen. So that may be root cause of this difference. So whenever there is a conflict, there is a cause. Realization of problem is very important. You must realize that there is a problem. You must realize that there is a cause of that problem. You must realize that there is a perceptual disorders, perceptual hurdles. Two people can receive different signals or process different signals to give different perception or result. So you must understand realization of the problem. Many a time it happens that conflict is reaching to peak without understanding that there is a problem. Both parties, both people may be same or may be correct, but only understanding they take in a wrong way. So realize that if there is a problem, then talk about the conflict and issues. And both the people must understand to unlearn the pre-activity behavior or perception. Pre-activity perception must be unlearned. And when you are entering into conflict management, your positive approach should always be there. If you are moving through positive approach, it will be easy to manage that conflict. And try to develop a neutral platform of the discussions, interpersonal one-to-one discussions, when you are looking at the one-to-one mapping. So neutral platform is important if one party is considered to be biased one. So it will be very difficult to manage conflict. How to develop conflict management skills in you, if you want to develop. Look at first point, which says that avoid third party interference. That means if a conflict is between X and Y, so X and Y can sit together and try to bring things on table, across the table. If third person will come into picture or third party, then conflict may increase. Or in two person X and Y, interest may be common, but when third person interfere, third person's self-interest is also associated with that conflict management. Maybe that third person is not interested to solve that conflict. Sometimes there must be some interest. So you need to understand that, try to avoid third party interference as much as possible. Use of formal authority to resolve problem. Now this is again very debatable issue. Sometimes what happens, the conflict is handled and tackled with the proper authority. Every conflict cannot be handled with authority. Some conflicts which are amongst people, they may not be properly handled in an authoritative environment. Maybe that they are solved in democratic environment where there is no role of authority. We say that try to use formal authority in a very strategic manner. It should not come in every picture. Wherever there is a requirement, then only you use authority. Otherwise, try to solve the problem or conflict in a behavioral manner. This is your interpersonal skill that you develop. If you are using or ordering someone to do something, or you are pressurizing some X person and then favoring some Y person, then it will not be a conflict management. Rather, you are covering the conflict. It will again come back with a high intensity or in a different form. Then you have convincing power. When you are a negotiator, when you are a problem solver, you must be having the convincing power. And the convincing power comes with the facts and figures. Nowadays, in system, convincing power comes when you have facts with you, when you have figures with, for justification, for clarification. So always talk with the facts, because it will lead to minimum conflicts. Another very important point is that clear and parallel communication. Now, when we talk about the parallel communication, we talk about that technical thing that it should not be the cross transaction. It should not be the cross transaction. That means if someone is speaking from adult ego state, so you must speak or give response from adult ego state. or expected ego state. Parallel communication, clear and parallel communication is very important. Cross transaction or cross communication is something different. The people who have already gone through with the transactional analysis, they can understand this parallel communication. I would definitely cover this cross transaction, cross communication, and parallel communication in your transactional analysis, especially in MBA, and it will also be covered in BTech. It is there in second year BTech OB subject. So my point here is in conflict management that you must have the parallel communication, continuous communication. Continuous communication is also very important to solve any conflict, to manage any conflict. Apart from this, interpersonal skills also includes negotiation skills. Some of the institutions, they are also focusing on negotiation technologies or negotiation techniques. There are negotiation technologies which are talked about across the different management programs also. When we talk about negotiation skills, we mean that you must have effective communication skill. When you negotiate, your actual thought which comes to your brain, that must be put in same size, shape and structure to others' brain. Medium of communication is only medium. The thought must not be distorted. When I want to communicate something, my mind is having already a shape, size of that thought. I give that thought a language, and other person who receive it decode that language to understand the size and shape of thought. So whether my thought is properly communicated to other or not. In negotiation skill, it is very important. If I want to say something in 7 parameters, say for example, but other is understanding in 8 parameters, say for example in pointage. So in that case, negotiation would not be successful, because you want to communicate 7 point, but others receiving or understanding 8 point. So it is not effective communication. If I want in pointage as 7, so other must receive it in 7. Integrative approach must be there in your negotiation. Differentiating approach must not be there. Negotiation, integration is very important. Integration with objective, integration with the process, integration with the people. Your objective of negotiation must be very clear to every person, every party, every people, everyone who is associated with that. And the interest and objective of each person must be integrated. In negotiation, this thing is very important, that for which you are going to negotiate. So understanding of the issue and recognition of the issues. Recognition of the issues means you must understand the other party issue. Other party must understand your issue and concern. Because if they will understand your issue and concern, and you will understand their issue and concern, then across the table negotiation can be talked about. And while developing this negotiation skill, you must research on your opponent. When you are about to sit across the table and when you are about to discuss things with some party or some person, so it is equally important to understand that who is the person with whom you are going to negotiate. Little bit research the personality, the behavior, the strength, the weaknesses, and if there are some weaknesses, how to convert opponent's weakness into your strength, or how to safeguard your weakness from opponent's strength. Research your opponent. Like in cricket, what happens? When you are going into match, negotiation table is kind of match. In cricket match, you know, every team try to understand opponent team's strength and weaknesses, the players, the behavior, the strength, the weaknesses, their skills, and then try to avoid to work on their weakness. Try to focus on their strength. So research on your opponent's skills is very important in negotiation. You must be ready and prepared. Readiness is important and preparedness is also important. And as we discussed that in negotiation, be positive. Be positive or being positive, it doesn't mean that always be cool. Be positive means be positive that result will come. Be positive that things will be in a corrective mode. Be positive that the objective of negotiation will be achieved. Be positive that both the parties would not hurt each other. So be positive is very important. Be positive about your own methodology, your objective, your approach. This point is very important. Address problem, not personalities. In negotiation, many times it happens that the party starts negotiation with problems and end up with the personalities. Many times you must remember some of the event in your life that you went to someone to discuss problem and you came back after discussing people. So you should not discuss people, you discuss problem. You must not aim to solve people or correct people. You must aim to solve problems. So usually in our in my personality, in my life also, I talked about people that good people discuss issues, not people, not person. Great people discuss ideas. Good people discuss about the problems and issues, not and that low people they discuss people. So my point is here to mention in negotiation it's very important to address the problem. You know the problem, address the problem, forget about the personalities. Adapt win-win approach. So one win is for one party and another win is for another party. Means whichever negotiation result is, both the parties understand that yes, I have won. I have achieved objective. Both the parties. So in win-win situation, both the parties get something as a result. So this will work in negotiation skill. This will keep your negotiation track open for every problem. But when we will discuss people in negotiation, it will close the door for negotiation process. So do not make personalized things. So what all about negotiation is that while negotiating these things, how to maintain the motivation, how to motivate people. Altogether, this motivation is another chapter in your interpersonal skill. The behavioral sciences covers this chapter very much in detail. Here I am just briefing in how to keep people motivated in interpersonal skill or in soft skills or in discussion. You must have the very conducive environment and culture. You provide a free run. You provide you know the parties, the other person in interpersonal interaction will be happy, will participate in that interaction only when the people find environment conducive to that work or conducive to that discussion. You provide discussion environment, open culture. It should not be closed culture. People feel motivated into that discussion. So motivational skill is very important. Recognize the work of team or other person. When you are talking to someone, don't start with a negative that you have not done this thing, you have not done thing. I asked you to do this thing, but you did not. No, look, when you are starting this conversation or this interpersonal interaction, it will not lead to motivation, it will lead to demotivation, dissatisfaction. First, try to recognize people's work, try to provide culture, they will feel motivated, feel remaining with you. Being positive and promote positivity is very essential. We have discussed in negotiation. You must be positive. Listen first and then feedback. Before speaking, listen first. Other person, if I am talking to someone, other person will be motivated if I allow him or her to speak. And I say that yes, I am listening. Yes. Let me know your point first. That means if you are listening, it means you are getting feedback first. So listen first. It will make other person ready for listening. Provide backup and update every time when you are in a team, when you are in an interpersonal role. You must provide backup and update to all parties, irrespective of the personalities, people. When you develop this motivational skill, it is very important, as we discussed, recognize individual differences. You must understand that two humans cannot be same. The difference in thinking, difference in behavior, difference in attitude, different in approach is quite obvious. It is natural phenomena. So when you recognize the difference, that yes, when you recognize that X is aggressive in nature and Y is not aggressive in nature, so you this become a condition of that negotiation or condition of interpersonal interaction. When you interact, when you know that someone to whom you are talking is aggressive in nature, then that factor will continuously tickling to your mind that see the other person is very aggressive, so handle accordingly. So recognition of the individual's difference is very important. You are cool, other is not. You are positive, other is negative. Or you are negative, other is positive. You believe in right track, other may be believing in all the wrong tracks. So you must understand the difference. Then you can motivate people. Allow people to participate in decisions. We have discussed that decision making participation. So when they will participate in decision making, they will feel we feeling. It will not be I have done. It will be we have done. So promote this we have done or we have been part of this. Link rewards to performance. This is very crucial point of motivation. If your performance is not linked with the rewards, so it will be difficult to keep people motivated. You may not be motivated forever. And check system for equity. That means equitable treatment, equitable rewards, equitable consideration to each and every person when you are interacting is there or not. So this is very crucial and very important to understand that whether your people or your person to whom you are talking is motivated or not, motivated to talk, motivated to interact, contribute. So I hope that most of the point that I have tried to cover in this, I have covered in brief.